Hello, happy hour with Heather and guest Andrew, and anybody else who might be joining. This is Sean, aka Orc Adams from Orcumentary. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the video here. It's whoops, keep broadcasting. Yeah, so I don't know what was going on. I've done plenty of live videos before, and it's just strange, I guess. Like the request would pop up for a split second, and um, before I could respond to it, um, click the live red camera button. You should be able to. Okay, I just. Yeah, I've never tried to go live in a group before, or to um, join someone else's stream. So I don't know if there's a trick to it or something. But yeah, every time I would get that request, it would disappear after a split second, even when I tried to press the button really quick. So I guess we'll see what happens. Let me see if I could view these comments. No viewers to invite yet. Add viewers to be in your broadcast. Invite group members. There's an option here that says invite group members. Let me see if... Okay, so Andrew, I just sent you an invite. I don't know if this is what you tried this whole time or not, but we'll see if this works. So, all right, cool. So, all right, so I am seeing comments. So did you get, I don't know if we're gonna just do the same game that I did before, but reversed. Like I sent you a request. I don't know if you got it. Okay. All right. So I see Heather's on too. Hi, Heather. I was gonna say thanks for tuning in, but this is your show, so thank you for having me. Let's say that then. Yeah, so this is actually the first interview I've done promoting the new Orcumentary album, so it'll be I'm excited to talk about it. Definitely. Whoop, what's this? Approve? Bring Andrew Davie on camera. Okay, let me see if this works. Thank you for having me. Yes, it works.
Okay, we did it.
Yeah, so this is actually the first interview I've done.
We did it.
We did it. We did it.
All right, we did it. Yeah. So for some reason, you just we needed to do it this way.
That's all right. Yeah, it's kind of all's well that ends well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's always like I say, if there's not a snafu, or technical difficulties before a show, then it's probably not going to be a memorable show.
That's true. And as the orcs often say, where there's a whip, there's a way.
Sure. Yeah, I tried to brush up a little bit on my my orc. The only real experience, and I mentioned this a little bit in promoting today's conversation, was I oversaw the Dungeons and Dragons Club recently, a couple of years ago when I was teaching middle school.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I sort of figured I would leave it to you to be the person who had the in-depth knowledge about everything. Mine is just a cursory sort of knowledge. So Thank you so much for doing this, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to be a part of this. I haven't. This is the first interview I've done talking about the new Orcumentary album, so I'm definitely excited to talk about it.
Gotcha. Well, I know for those of you who are just tuning in right now, we got a bit of a late start because of technical difficulties. I'm probably going to write a strongly worded email to the executives at Facebook to let them know that that we would have liked to have started for, but what can you do? But I'm here with Sean Adams from Orcumentary, who's got a new album coming out, I believe February 5th of next
Yes.
year, and they're going to have a show as well on the 7th of next year. So I'm sorry,
Yeah,
if you
so
any.
what's that?
No, I was just going to say, please tell us some details.
So the show for the past couple of years I've been doing. So there's something going on with your video where I can hear a distorted echo of everything I'm saying. I don't know if there's something that can be done about that, but it's kind of distracting. I don't know if any of you ever did something about that.
I'm not sure.
I'll just try to power through it.
Okay. Yeah.
So for the past few years, I've done. Here's my dog. My dog is coming in. Oh wait, he's gone. Okay. Anyway, he just seemed very excited to be here. But anyway, so for the past few years, with Orcumentary, I've done a Super Bowl halftime show. So during the televised halftime show, I will do a 20-minute documentary performance streamed live on Facebook. So I'm planning on doing that this year as well, which the timing worked out perfect so that I could release the album on Friday the 5th, and then the 7th, which is the following Sunday, is the Super Bowl, to do the halftime show, which will also double as a album release show.
Gotcha. You know what? I'm going to try and put on headphones to see if maybe that'll mitigate the feedback.
Okay.
So I hope I don't lose you. I don't think I will, but just hold on, because okay, there we go.
Okay, awesome.
All right, my phone is connected, so now now I definitely feel like an old school DJ from 1973. So.
All right,
so
cool.
Yeah, we're here. Orcumentary is telling us about the Super Bowl halftime show that he usually does. And sorry, I felt the need to go into that sort of announcer voice. But,
well, it's part of the job, right? Doing the interviews and the radio shows and all that.
Yeah. Well, I go with it.
Yeah, no mind.
So for people who are interested to check out your music, I know you have a lot of releases on Bandcamp with some really wonderful titles.
Yeah.
My personal favorite was Orcs 1, Goblin 0.
Yeah.
I think was that. I don't want to get any of these wrong. I'm doing it off the top of my head. And then You Must Procreate was another good one.
Yeah, that was one of the singles off of Destroy the Dwarves. Yeah.
Yeah. That was going to be the third, Destroy the Dwarves. But yeah, I mean it's great because it's you've sort of carved a niche for yourself. With I guess Orc Rock is what the genre you would call this. But
yeah,
I know it's
rock or orc metal. When I first actually started Orcumentary, I wasn't as into metal as I am now, and I didn't really want to call myself orc metal for whatever reason, so I just called it Orc Rock, and it kind of flows off the tongue a little better. But I'd say the music is firmly in metal now. Aside from the forthcoming album is actually an orchestral release. So it's a little strange, but it works. So basically, it's all symphonic instruments on this album. So it's basically like if you had like a 40-piece orchestra, and then rather than like a soprano or whatever singing at the front, you have an orc doing whatever growling over the symphonic instruments. So this release isn't technically metal, but kind of falls under that.
Yeah, well, I mean, whether or not, I think I once, by the way, we have a question from Brad about how you got started with the orc theme, or sort of what the inspiration behind that was. So if you wanna delve into that, and I'll remember my question, I can follow up.
Okay. So the whole orc thing. So first off, so I've always been a big fan of like science fiction, fantasy stuff. Like, no surprise, the Lord of the Rings films, I watched them for the first time when I was 13, and that was really extraordinary. I'd never seen a film like that before. There was just an amount of, it really was transformative. And, I was just like extremely nerdy into it. And I took piano lessons from age 7 to 18. Um, and around the end, like from when I was 7 years old until I ended high school. And towards the end of that, I was getting kind of bored with the piano lessons. So kind of mixing the Lord of the Rings nerdiness with being bored of piano lessons, I just started writing music for fun. Didn't expect anything to come of it. And I just had a funny idea for making songs about orcs. Like I just made like a raspy voice one day, and I thought it was funny. And then I thought, well, what if I made songs with this voice? So it's a strange origin story, but that's really how it started. Was just Lord of the Rings nerdiness, and um, like I didn't really know anything about writing music when I started. Like I said, a lot of it was just for fun. Didn't expect it to go anywhere, but after a little while, I realized I liked writing music, that I thought I could get good at it, and it was just something I enjoyed. So that's how I guess I got singing about orcs.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's what's well, I remembered what I was going to say is for one of my podcast episodes a really long time ago, one of my friends named Patrick and I were talking about what constitutes heavy music. Does
Yeah.
it sort of have to be metal in order to be heavy? And we tried to sort of go into different genres and find music, in like jazz or other things that would be heavy. Um, so I think this, having orc themed lyrics and songs, even if it's over symphonic instruments, still constitutes as metal. I mean, it's just sort of the attitude and the drive. I don't necessarily think you need to have distorted guitars or or be in drop D tuning or anything. But
Yeah, that's like when I've been starting to promote this album and all that, I've still been calling it a metal release, although I've been, just, kind of having saying, it's a 15th anniversary album, orchestral stuff here and there, but I also agree that it's not metal in the traditional sense, but a lot of metal bands have, or some metal bands, I think, have done similar things where they've done orchestral, maybe they've had like a bonus track that's orchestral or something. I'm not sure if too many other bands have done what I'm doing, which is really just, kind of going beyond.
now,
But yeah, I agree that in this sense, the attitude is definitely the same, and even some of the intensity, I would say, is pretty similar.
sure. Well, I mean, I think it's in the past. I think certain bands like Metallica have teamed up with symphony orchestras to sort of reinterpret some of their songs. But I think what you're doing is unique in terms of both, the subject matter, but also the way you're sort of going about doing it. I know I think it's just you and a keyboard, right? In
Correct.
the band. Do you have any backing players when you play live, or is
No,
it
no. So literally, when I play shows, it's just me and my keyboard
okay?
on
I mean,
stage.
you really don't need anything else. Um, just
Yeah, it's trying to do a solo metal thing live. I've seen plenty of other musicians try and not do it so well. The thing is that as a solo musician, you really have to bring something else where it makes up for the fact that there are no other musicians. Like acoustic musicians are one thing. Like if you're doing like softer music or whatever, you don't need other musicians. But for heavy music, um, you really do need something else, and that's with the Orcumentary live shows. They're much more interactive, and so I'm very much in character when I'm on stage. So there's a fair amount of live videos on YouTube, but it's not like me talking to you right now saying, "All right, everybody, this next song is called Fuck the Elves." No, it's
right,
very like when you sing about orcs, you can't just not also be an orc on stage. So
right?
so that's what makes the difference with my live performances and how they work per se, you know.
Well, it's, I mean, I think you have to get in character and sort of exhibit a persona that, that is the best way to deliver the music. Um, and one thing I remember having a lot of discussions once about different types of music in the metal genre, and I always thought one of the drawbacks with so many bands is that they just don't look like they're having a good time. Um,
Yeah.
Now granted, some of them are talking or singing about really difficult subjects, so it wouldn't make sense. But there's just such a lack. I feel like as soon as someone said that they were enjoying themselves, they would get in trouble or something. So it's sort of great. It's great when I can come across music that I enjoy, where I can tell the person isn't really enjoying themselves, um, and not taking everything so seriously all the time. Just in terms of, I mean, obviously not that it's like parody or anything, but there's like a sense
Yeah.
of enjoyment.
Oh yeah, I totally understand what you mean.
Okay, good.
Especially like a lot of the metal that I listen to is more not as upbeat. So, you know, I see the whole like, you know, they look kind of miserable on stage, but at the same time it's very cathartic in a way to create and to express, you know, that's what draws people to metal. At least a lot of the metal that I listen to is it's generally, you know, like these people feel, you know, have gone through similar struggles that I have. You know, like a lot of pop music, you know, it's just very contrived stuff. But not to get off topic, but yeah,
No, no.
yeah, I do have a lot of fun on stage. You know, that's
Yeah,
it's hard not to. You know, even when the crowd kind of sucks, you know, I comment on it in character. You know, that's the thing is I can get away with a lot of stuff being in character that you know, and that just makes it a lot more fun, you know.
sure. Well, I think that's why, and I'll my only experience with this is through writing, but that's why a lot of writers will adopt sort of a persona that kind of keeps them detached from what they're writing so that they can comment on things and sort of feel removed from it enough. But yeah, I mean, it seems like what you're doing is like performing as well as playing. I mean, obviously it's a performance, but you're performing kind of like how Alice Cooper does, with his whole stage show and sort of persona. So there's so much layering going on, it would seem. For those of you out there who are watching and you're interested, there's going to be a new album coming out in February with a show in February, but there's plenty of material that you can get on Bandcamp, and a lot of really great merch. One thing I've always really enjoyed, aside from the hashtags that you have on your posts, are just, I remember there was a video you made recently about taking hummus into Isengard.
Um, they're taking the hummus to Isengard,
Yep,
yeah.
yep. So it's great because you obviously you're not going to expect certain bands like death metal bands who are talking about really horrific things to have videos about taking the hummus to Isengard. But that's, I mean, that's why we need Orc Rock to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's not many. I can't think of many other artists that would be able to get away with doing they're taking the hummus to Isengard 25-second video on their socials without being banished from the metal realm.
Right.
You know?
Well, you're sort of, what's great is, because it's a unique sort of interpretation of something that requires a little bit of levity to it. Um, I mean, and if you were to see Tom Araya from Slayer, there's a photo of him I've seen where he's wearing like an Elmo t-shirt,
Oh, you
and
know what? I think I've seen that too. Yeah.
the he it's almost like he can't get away with it because people will sort of project what they think he's trying to do. Like there's got to be some kind of grand design. even when he's just trying to relax or something. Um, but what's great is I think the music is really good, but at the same time, it allows you to kind of have fun, like taking the hummus ties. I just like saying that phrase, so I'm going to say it a couple more times. But
Yeah.
those are the sorts of things I think you can sort of get away with, and it still works, And I think it's almost if you didn't do it, um, it would just never get done. Like there's not anyone out there I think who could sort of get away with doing something clever like that and not have it come off as a parody.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally with metal today, it's not taken as seriously on the whole. And what I mean by that is that, you have your stereotypical metalheads who are, like, oh, you can't do XYZ, like I'm sure I don't know if you're into metal too much, but there's, like with black metal, people are like, oh, a black metal band isn't real unless if they, record all their albums on one of those little Fisher Price things from the 80s, and they have very rigid rules on what is metal and what is not. Um, but I think most metalheads today really don't care too much about that, because I've seen some metal bands, even like death metal bands, that have more of I guess, a party attitude, for lack of a better term, and that just kind of works with, I guess, how you present yourself. You know?
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I think the it's not as rigid today as I think it may have been, just in terms of the different genres or what was acceptable or not.
Yeah.
But I think what's great is you've sort of found uh, a really good niche that you can sort of straddle a bunch of different genres with. It's like you're doing a performance, you're getting into character, you're talking about subjects that are really interesting to people in terms of science fiction and fantasy. You're sort of dabbling in the metal, even though this one is more of a symphonic album. But you're wearing a lot of hats, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. um, yeah, with the way that I write music with Orcumentary, I have a very free way of writing. So it's, with most bands, you usually have like, we're gonna play like a certain style, within that. And the only real consistency with Orcumentary there has to be is the attitude, like the lyrics and the vocals and the like that aspect. There's been a fair amount of consistency in the styles over the years, but that's really the most important thing is, if the Orcumentary attitude is there, then the music will follow and the music will always fit.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. I think you're that's sort of the linchpin that keeps everything together, and you'll find subject matter as it comes along. You can sort of vary the music, you can vary the lyrics, but as long as you're in that sort of persona and you've got the attitude, I think that's sort of what keeps it all together, as you just said.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, again, I'll remind people that I'm speaking with Sean from Orcumentary, and absolutely pick up his merch. He's got some great albums, great titled albums on Bandcamp. Um, and this Friday is going to be another Bandcamp Friday. So if you're looking to pick up some stuff, that's exactly what you should be doing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the new album. But could you remind us again what it's titled?
So the album is called Fully Orchestrated.
Fully orchestrated. Gotcha.
So
And
yeah, so I released a single back in July that is going to be on the album, and I also just posted a preview clip on all my socials, which has snippets from a few other songs. So the way the album is set up, it's meant to commemorate 15 years of Orcumentary, and so it's not exactly a greatest hits, but it has the one new single, like I said, from July. There's a special cover song, and then 6 songs from my previous albums have been transformed into this orchestral style. So it's something that I've had in my head for over a decade that I've been wanting to do, and the timing just really worked out during COVID and all that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, I think everyone's sort of, a lot of people are finding silver linings with, with lockdowns and with quarantining and stuff. And I think people for the most part are trying to be as creative as possible and capitalizing on the time. So it's good that you were able to sort of finally realize this project.
yeah, yeah. The past few years for Orcumentary's been there's been some ups and downs. Like I put out the album Destroy the Dwarves. Then like a year later, I took a couple of years off. Kind of came back and did some shows, and then I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after that. It's hard. It can be really hard sometimes to be a solo musician when you have to literally do everything yourself. And I like writing the music, I like playing the shows, but a lot of the other stuff can be challenging for just one person. But but I decided like at the end of the year that I wanted to do an album anyway. So I already had the wheels in my head moving before COVID hit, fortunately, and I really just busted my ass all year to make this album happen. So yeah, soon everyone will be able to hear it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and it'll probably be. I think I had the single on the show, the podcast, a couple of months ago, so it'll be good to do a revisit of Workumentary. Would
Oh
you
yeah.
say for people out there who are sort of interested in getting into, would kind of coming up with the character and the attitude be sort of the number one thing you'd recommend for someone looking to either get into orc rock or some other sort of specialized form of music making?
Um, I'm not. I'm not sure if I understand your question. Can you
What?
rephrase
Yeah,
it?
I guess it sounds like the thing that kind of holds it all together for you, or the most important thing, is having the attitude and getting into character to be able to come up with the music. So
Oh
would you
yeah,
say
yeah.
that's probably the most important thing if someone wanted to eventually get into the 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 orc rock game?
Oh yeah. I mean, currently Orc Rock is a one band show, so I
Right,
mean, you're gonna have to fight through me if you want to make Orc Rock, if you want to put that tag on your
right.
music. But if we're in some fantasy world where that doesn't have to happen, and you want to make Orc Rock, then it is all about the attitude. So,
Right. Well,
so for the sake of the,
I not that someone would try to challenge you in the orc rock realm, but I thought if someone wanted to try, you know, some other, like Mad Max rock or some, some kind of, let's leave the Lord of the Rings movies to the experts, but if someone wanted to try another kind of specialized thing, it sounds like trying to kind of figure out the attitude of what it requires is the most important thing, and then the songs will kind of flow from that.
oh yeah, there's you'd be surprised. There's a lot of themed metal bands out there, like bands that sing about like pirates or I don't know if you know Sabaton, but they sing about like battles and war and all that, and they are very like like especially with a band like Sabaton, it's really like the attitude is number one and the music is kind of secondary. So it's more like if I guess if you want to make like a Mad Max band or something, it really is more about everything else rather than music. Obviously, the music has to be good, but if you're gonna have some kind of band with a theme that's so specific and that can be so nerdy, you definitely have to be laser focused on that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know if we had people out there who were listening who were curious. The someone had asked how you had gotten started, so I just sort of figured we should cover the bases. Not to give anyone ideas to try their own hand at orc rock, because that would mean having to go through you, and I don't want anyone to throw down the gauntlet quite yet, because I feel like that would be yeah.
Yes.
See,
Sorry,
that would just be a
throat's a little
that would
sore.
be a bad idea.
Bad idea.
But
Bad idea.
yeah.
I
So
just saw
are
your
you
comment.
work?
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
just saw Brand's comment. I was just gonna say
Oh
I'm
yeah.
glad you like the song. Um, yeah, just wanted to say I'm glad you like the song. I'm glad that you checked the song out.
Oh yeah.
But
No, my pleasure. Are you I mean, I know this album hasn't come out yet, but do you have ideas for follow up music or anything like that?
yeah, so I've been doing some demoing for what will be the next album, and so the next album is going to be it's going to be a little different from this one or from the previous material. So all the previous Orcumentary albums are pretty raw and unpolished, and with this next one, I'm probably going to be using like real guitars. It's going to be a full production. So if you don't know much about my older music, my music before this album, um, all the instruments were programmed. It's definitely more raw, but yeah. So I've been doing some writing and just exploring my options. Really, just want to have like a really big production on the follow up to Fully Orchestrated, but it'll sound like a metal band. That's if you compare your average metal band to some older Orcumentary releases, there's going to be a big difference. But with the follow up to Fully Orchestrated, that's going to sound more in line with what metalheads expect from a metal band.
Gotcha. So it'll be good. I mean, it sounds like while you're leaving the quote unquote metal genre for this upcoming album, that that the attitude and the sort of the feel of it is going to be just as heavy, and then you're going to return to more traditional instruments in the follow up.
Yeah,
So cool. That's good. Any other things we should know about for the upcoming month or two? I know that the album is going to come out in February, but
yeah.
if
February
people,
No, February 5th. I know you had said it a couple times, but I'll say it again. Yeah,
yeah,
February
yeah, go
5th.
for it.
Um, so on my merch page, so I currently have CDs and shirts and pre-orders for new items um, on my Big Cartel page. So that's orcumentary.bigcartel.com. And the CD version actually is going to have some bonuses that are not available on digital. So the CD version will have instrumental versions of or instrumental versions and commentary tracks of all the songs aside from the cover that I do. So that's like 14 bonus tracks. So that's a lot of something with Orcumentary that I've always struggled with a little bit is people who don't go to the shows, sometimes they don't get the full experience, like as we're talking, it's easy for me to verbalize um I can talk about like, Orcumentary is not just music. There's a bit more immersion to it, but having the extras like the instrumentals and the commentary tracks, like the commentary is all in character. So it's, my character, Orc Adams, talking about each song, about how, this song was about when he was killing goblins and it was so much fun, but then he got bored and had to run on his way or whatever it was. So that's, it's a level of immersion that was previously not available without going to a show. But considering COVID, we all have to make some adjustments sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mean, the more I hear about it, the more it's sort of like I mean, the music definitely stands on its own, but the whole experience is sort of tied into seeing the performance in front of you, seeing you sort of be able to be in character and have interactions. And it's great that you'll have these interludes on on the upcoming album, because it'll add so much more depth. That I think you're right. I think it's, if you want to get the full kind of force of this thing, then it's got to be an immersive experience. So hopefully, as things settle down within the next I don't, amount of time, you'll be able to start playing some shows again, and people can fully experience Orc Rock as it's meant to be experienced.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, no, that's, I mean, that's great. Like there, it seems, I haven't really thought about, I think most musicians have certain obstacles or things that they focus on, if they're going to be writing or recording music, or sort of how it's going to be, uh, how people are going to interact with it. But you also have like a secondary concern with, like, are people going to understand what I'm getting at with this performance? How integral is the performance to this, to the songs? um, so it's just interesting. There's like a whole other level of things that I didn't realize that I never would have thought about before talking to you about this. um, it
Yeah.
reminds. I'm sorry, go on.
No, you can keep going. I'll keep my thought.
I was going to say, again, I know I brought up Alice Cooper before, but that's the one thing I think of where you have such an elaborate sort of production, and the songs are all tied into the stage show, that you really, I mean, you get great songs on the album, but you sort of miss out on like 50% of what you're in store for if you're not there. So it's great that you're kind of able to replicate that in some way, by having the skits or the interludes or whatever on the commentaries on the upcoming album.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's something that I've always well, like I was saying before, like not everyone is going to be able to go to shows. So like with my first few albums, like I said, the production was, their albums, like the songs are very good. I think that they're albums that I'm proud of, but the limitations I had led the production to being more raw than I would have liked. And so with me deciding whether to keep Orcumentary going or not, it was a matter of determining if I could produce music that would appeal to people who would never see Orcumentary live. And because that's the reality of it, is that, am I going to be able to, I mean, who knows if I even have any fans in Germany, or, will I be able to, you know what I mean? Because I'm from New England. I'm a solo artist. It's not, I don't know if I'll be able to, go all around the country or what have you. But, it was not just about, making music with much bigger production quality, but how to, I guess, bring more of the orc experience to a listener who may not otherwise get. So,
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I remember, I forgot which band I had seen, but they were, the producer of their first album was saying, we need to figure out a way to capture what you sound like live, because that's what makes that, again, I wish I remembered the name of the band, but there was, it was like the stage show is what makes you guys so good. You haven't been able to capture that yet in all these demos. So I mean, it's really great to kind of bring the experience as best you can. You know, um, I would like to think you have fans in Germany, but whether or not they'll ever get to see you play, is a horse of a different color, so to speak. But
yeah.
but no, it's great. I mean, it's great because I think there's so much to what you're doing that's probably not in the song. That's just part of either the interaction with the audience, or something that's improved during a show that just brings so much depth to it. So it's great that you found a way to try and bring some of that to people who are just going to be able to listen to the music.
Yeah, kind of like what you were saying with, I know that, I mean, I'm sure you can think of a bunch of bands who don't sound as good on CD as they do live. Um, so it is really hard to capture, because the audio really is only one aspect of it. And even if you think about, like, if you watch like a live DVD, and then you listen to the live CD. You know, like the live CD, you're missing something. You know, if you're watching it, you may overlook little things that you'll pick up if you're only listening to the CD because you're not like getting the full experience. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're hyper focused on just the audio. I think I might be getting off on a little tangent here, but
No, it's all. I mean, this is whatever. Honestly, it's whatever you want to talk about. So we can talk about the different experiences between what you're missing with audio versus visual. We can talk about how if there are any elves watching right now, they should probably turn the program off because they're not
yeah,
welcome here.
they should.
You know, yeah. Brad says this interview opened up a whole new genre to me. Love the creativity and style. Yeah,
Thanks,
no,
Brad.
I
I'm glad.
yeah, absolutely. Go. You should. All of the albums that I've listened to are great. Even if they're not, even if, as you said, some of them are raw and didn't quite capture the full experience of what you were sort of hoping to go for. Definitely, you should check out the entire catalog. Um, and it's always great. Again, I'm going to go back to the a lot of the titles or the things that you've posted. I've always found to be really really funny. Um, Goblins, Orcs 1, Goblin 0. I mean, that that reminded me of and if you don't mind, I'm going to go on a quick tangent here myself. But
Oh, no worries.
when originally when they were going to make Jaws 3, the idea was to make it a spoof called Jaws 3 People 0. And
Oh, really?
yeah, and they got, John Hughes was going to write the script, and it was going to be this, and National Lampoon was going to do it. And at the very end, I think Spielberg, uh, it was either Spielberg or it was the producers of the original film pulled out because they realized since they had produced the original, why destroy your own product? So they ended up but when I saw Orcs 1 Goblin 0, it reminded me of Jaws 3 People 0
Oh,
because
there,
yeah, you
there
just I
no, there isn't a connection, but that is pretty funny. I only saw the
no
first
no
Jaws.
I no that's just what I thought of because that's how my mind operates. There
Yeah.
was no connection there, but it was the same sort of sense of humor that I found great. Um, or your hashtags, when you put, by the way, Redbeards of Instagram, may I ask how long you've been growing your beard?
Oh, that is a good question. How long have I been growing my beard? It's been a couple years. So I mean, I've
Gotcha.
had facial hair, for pretty much all my life, but I think it's only been. Oh, that's a question I should have researched before coming on this show.
It's all
I'd
good.
say it was. I'd say it was at least 2 years.
I didn't mean
Yeah.
to put you on the spot. This is only a couple months what I have. So,
Oh yeah.
um, so I was just curious because there's definitely some beard envy going on right now.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited for the new album, and it's really great. I always also like to understand, the kind of process that people go through with the conceptualizing of stuff, but also, it seems like what you're going for here is a really kind of a full package, performance as well. It's not just about the songs; it's about the experience. So it's
Yeah.
it's really it's really cool to hear that because I feel like a lot of people, they may not have the same amount of focus on the whole thing. It's more just about let's try and get this album out, but we won't really care so much about everything else. So it's really cool, and I was a theater major in college, so hearing what you're talking about sort of brings me back to the sort of theatricality of it, which I think is kind of lacking these days in a lot of shows. but it sounds
Yeah.
it's
Well, especially on like a local level, I mean, local artists generally don't have a huge budget or anything, and even my
right.
shows aren't really that theatrical. It's really just, me and my keyboard, and I have a backdrop, and I have a bit of, a get up and all that stuff. I think one day if Orcumentary got really big, it would be awesome to have some kind of crazy stage show, kind of like Alice Cooper,
Right.
where I don't even know what it would entail, but something
Right.
something
No,
crazy.
I I just meant the theatricality because you're performing, you're in character, you're kind of delivering a whole, whether or not you need anything beside a keyboard and a backdrop, probably not. I mean, from what it sounds like, you can kind of deliver the whole show. Um, if you were to have some elaborate stage show, it could who knows? It could probably be pretty cool, but I don't think you need it. Um,
Yeah, at this point, I mean, most of the shows I've played have been with other full metal bands. So, you have a lot of the crowd there who's there to see your traditional metal band, and then Orcumentary comes on, and it's just so weird. Um, but most people are able to get it, or at least have a good time. I don't think it's too often where a crowd just doesn't get it at all. Which is
right.
good at least. I think that if I was trying to do something with this a long time ago when the metal scene was a lot less open-minded, then I'd probably get bottles thrown at me or something. But um, I think that people can appreciate the humor, the theatricality, the musicianship. A lot of I don't want to say a lot of comedic bands have very rudimentary instrumentals that just you have to say something funny over some kind of music, but I really love songwriting a lot, and that's something that I really push myself with these Orcumentary songs. And um, it's just really the sky's the limit with these songs. I just really I think of each song kind of as a challenge in a way, like what's one thing that I've never done in a song before that I can do in this song, songwriting wise. A lot of bands, they have, got to stick to whatever structures, like, all right, here's the verse, here's the chorus, XYZ, and a lot of songs I write, not just with Orcumentary, but with other, with Virus of Ideals, my full band, which has nothing to do with Orcumentary, but that's how I approach songwriting anyway. It's, I just like to think of each song as a challenge, and I like to do something different in every single song.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how you keep it fresh too. Um, it's a really easy probably to sort of fall into a formulaic output of just we know what works, A plus B plus C, verse, chorus, verse. Let's just keep pumping these out. But but again, you're what you have going on here isn't really like I mean it would I guess it would be classified as comedy rock, but it's not. I mean, it's unique. Like I would think you're more like Ween or Tenacious D, where the subject matter may be different from the traditional mainstream stuff, but um, but it's certainly not second tier stuff. It's right up there. Um, so yeah, if I were to recommend Orcumentary to people, there wouldn't have to be any caveats like, oh, by the way, you may need to keep an open mind if you're going to listen to this. And as Heather did point out, it's really great about the community that people typically are open minded. If the music is good, if the performance is good, people are more prone to give you their time, which is great to hear that you haven't had to win over too many crowds.
Yeah, I mean, I still have to work at it, but it's, I have fun every night, even if there's not too many people there. If people really aren't even that into it, I still have fun at their expense. There's one, I'm trying to think of a good example, but I know there was one time when I was on tour, like, I don't know, was it like 10 years ago or something? And, you know, it was like a small crowd, you know, just playing in front of, I don't know, maybe 20 people or something. And someone was on their phone. And like in the middle of my performance, you know, I'm doing whatever my vocals are. And like instead of whatever line was going to be at the end of the verse, I said something along the lines of like no texting during the show or something, you know, and they just like it, you know, it's just fun, you know, that's really what it's about. It's not taking itself too seriously. It's just, you know, trying to get people to, you know, just trying to get a reaction out of people, you know, trying to get a good reaction out of people. Sometimes
Yes.
it's gone the other way, but
Yeah, well,
that's
it's funny how, that reminded me of sort of my attitude when I was teaching. It was
yeah.
kind of like it was kind of, it was kind of like you're trying to get the message across and you're trying to get it in a way that the kids are excited about it, but at the same point, if you're not having fun, then no one is having fun.
I mean, I
That's
wasn't like, yeah, I understand. Like, it's not as serious as, like, you know, obviously part of your job is trying to, you know,
Oh yeah,
impart
no, no.
love to your
I was just
students.
yeah, no, I mean I was just saying that's what it reminded me of. Not that there's really any comparison, but I remember going into it sometimes thinking like if I'm having a good time, that'll be contagious, and if I'm not having fun, then it's going to make this a lot more difficult. So
Yeah, exactly.
it just seemed there was I could understand where you were coming from,
Yeah,
but
I mean, when I say stuff like that, you know, it's not like I'm actually calling someone out. It's just
no, no, no,
me
yeah.
in character just going with it. But I know what you mean about there have definitely been times when I've been performing and I just kind of feel like something's just kind of like pushing down on me. Like I just know that things are just not working and you just got to fight through it, you know? If you know, if a performance just isn't going well or if it's really just not landing with people, it's hard not to wear that on my sleeve, but at the same time, it kind of works out in the performance. Like I'll usually say something, you know, like when I'm in, you know, like we were talking about before with like pen names and stage names and personas and all that. That gives you a bit more of a pass to be yourself or to make observations that you wouldn't otherwise say if it was just like me on like I don't know if I was like a singer songwriter and just playing, you know, Wonderwall and everyone's yawning, and then I just say, "Yeah, you guys are boring as hell. Fuck you," or something. You know, like I
Yeah.
would never do that as me. But if
Well,
I'm like,
I mean, what's great too is uh, because you've picked a specific sort of character of an orc, that gives you a lot of leeway with, with acting however you want, and you can get away with saying a lot of things or redirecting the show in any way you see fit, and that's part of the show. Like people will expect, or it'll be okay however you choose to make it because that's what the songs are about. That's what the music refers back to.
yeah,
So
exactly.
and it's it obviously because you've picked a very specific subject matter, or persona to be, everything kind of flows from that. So it would seem that obviously you kind of don't want the audience to be, combative with you, but if they are, then that kind of plays into your hand a little bit, and you can sort of, you know, see, it maybe the show's not going as well, but because of these snafus, you're sort of forced to redirect it in a certain way and, kick things up a little bit, which probably makes for a unique show.
Yeah, I mean, with all my performances, I don't really, you know, like with a lot of bands, you know, they kind of rehearse stage banter, you know, so that it's not like you're trying to come up with things off the top of your head and then you just say something stupid. But I never rehearse stage banter. So it's always just like, because it's very, um, well, yeah, because just the way the documentary performance always goes is it's very, um, I just go wherever Orc Adams takes me. So, you
Right.
know, if it's something like I see somebody on their phone, and I mean, I don't give a shit if somebody's on their phone, but I'll just because it's something to say in character that may get a laugh out of the crowd. I'll just point out that this person's on their phone, like in the middle of my song while I'm playing.
Yeah. Well, it seems like what's really interesting is that there's a certain level of musicianship to your show. You're singing, you're playing the keyboard, but you're also sort of riffing like a stand-up comic, as well as performing a stage show. So there's a lot of facets going on here. Um, and what's great is it seems like there's a certain, there's an improvisational quality to all these shows. So you can go to every show and not see the same thing twice.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, where um, as a solo artist doing metal, you have to do something to make it more interesting, so that it's just like I've seen metal musicians who will just kind of like be on stage with a backing track playing their guitar, just like playing their guitar. They're not really doing anything. Um, and that's not really interesting. It might be for people who are really about guitar playing to watch, but it's just like what I was saying before. You have to that might be okay for like an open mic, but if you're playing like an actual show, you got to do something you got to give people a show,
Right.
and if people are going to a metal show, going to a rock show, they're expecting a certain amount of energy, they're expecting a certain amount of intensity, and so in my case, the show just kind of evolved naturally. Like I remember my first couple shows were not too different from the ones that that I'm doing now. It was still the same, me in character, playing keyboards, doing the songs, saying snappy things here and there. I think it's just something that I always just knew that it's the only way Orcumentary could work in a live setting. It wasn't like I went up there and was like, um, okay, this next song is called Smoke the Ashes of Your Enemy with a pipe carved from their bones. And then I just went into it. It's
Yeah.
part of, and this is something I don't think we've actually touched on yet, but most of the Orcumentary songs actually follow a continuous original story. So it's not it's Lord of the Rings inspired clearly, or inspired by fantasy in the general sense, but the songs, um, so I actually created an orc character whose name is Orc Adams, and that is who the songs are all about, is this character's adventures. So there's even another layer of the immersion that we were talking about, is it's not just like, oh, this is kind of Lord of the Rings related. It's, oh, this is like a full story that spans multiple albums, and this character is telling his story while you know what I mean.
Yes. It's very much like a musical, in a certain way where it's following a storyline, it's interconnected songs. There's there's stage banter going on. So, what's great is it sounds like and Heather just wrote this that she would love to see a performance. Um, I don't know how it would work live streaming, at some point, if if that's what you want, because it seems like the interaction with the audience is sort of a key part of the show.
I have done a couple live stream shows. So those were the Super Bowl halftime shows I was talking about in the beginning. So I did one 2 years ago, I did one last year, and then I'm also going to be doing one this year. So the interaction isn't quite, it's not the same obviously as like having people standing there and watching, but at least doing it with Facebook, you have people's comments, and then um, I just can do things like trying to get people to chant, like when you're like, hey, hey, and obviously I can't hear them doing that from their phones, but it's just, um, it is a little different, obviously, because there's no actual crowd to feed off of, but usually between the songs, when I take a drink of water, I'll look at the comments and see if anybody
Right.
said anything during there, and I'll use that as part of my in between song banter. But I mean, that's what a lot of bands are doing now. You know, I've seen a bunch of live stream concerts this year, and you know, they're all really good production, and obviously it's not a great substitute for being there, but it's enough, you know. It's enough where it scratches that itch, you know. It gets people to think about something else for a little while, you know, to experience songs they really like. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is, should you ever want to return and do a live stream here, you're always more than welcome to do that. I'm jumping out of my pay grade right now, and I hope Heather would agree with me, um, that I would suggest, if should you ever wish to return and give a performance, you are more than welcome to. But
Oh yeah.
I'm glad. I mean, I'm really glad you're working on new stuff. I'm glad the new album is coming out, and it seems like you're sort of, you're leaving the metal genre a little bit to do more orchestra instruments, but you're returning to it. And there's really a lot that I learned about what goes into the show that I wasn't really aware of before. But I'm really glad we got to talk about it. And everyone should go check out Orcumentary on Bandcamp. And I know you're on pretty much every social media platform, so
Yeah.
it's just
Not
Orcumentary.
not TikTok or Parlor though. But I
Okay,
heard Trapped is on Parlor, so you can go check out Trapped on Parlor because they got kicked off of Facebook. Are you familiar with the whole
gotcha.
drama from that band Trapped?
No, I mean, I know that one of them posts pretty inflammatory stuff on Twitter, but uh, but I
Yeah,
don't really
they're
follow any of them.
I don't either, but it's usually all over the metal news. But their page got shut down on Facebook because of all the stuff that they've been posting. It was eventually just, you know, just enough. But they're on I think they're on Parlor now. But anyway, yeah, Orcumentary is on Facebook, Instagram, um, YouTube. I do have a Twitter, but I don't use it too often. But any one of
Okay,
those, you know, I'm always around.
okay. So yeah, follow Orcumentary on social media, and the new album comes out on the 5th of February, and there's a performance on the 7th, and hopefully at some point we will get to see you perform, because I would love to see some of that audience interaction. I'd love to be a part of it, but yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry that there was a snafu in the beginning to get this set up, but I'm really glad you were able to we were able to do this, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I'm glad that we were able to get it to work. You know,
Yeah,
that's all I'm concerned with. But
me
yeah, I
too.
mean, sometime next year, I'm definitely open to doing a performance on here. So
Cool.
yeah,
Sounds
we could
good.
definitely talk about that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All
Keep
right.
Orc Rock alive.
Keep working.